Hey guys, how's it going? I can't believe this is finally the last week of summer two. Um, I'm already back at work, so don't mind the stuff behind me. Um, so this week I decided to focus on the first video, the reality therapy, where Dr. Grandi, let's say Grandi, um, is meeting with a client and they're talking about um, how she is having an issue of kleptomania. And he's kind of just like asking her some stuff and trying to get to the root of her behavior and seeing, why does she do it? So when I think about what types of questions or statements does Dr. Grandi ask that help the client come up with her own answers to change her behaviors? Um, when she's telling him about the kleptomania, he doesn't outrightly call it that, but that's what it said at the beginning of the video. He does ask her, like, what are the consequences, like, when you take these things? And she says, like, well, sometimes people don't notice, or, sometimes my parents get really angry, or people start wondering, like, where their stuff is. So then he asks her, like, well, why do you do it? Like, what is it about you taking other people's things that you find interesting, or why do you do it? And then she says that it's because it's fun for her. Like, she just thinks it's fun. Um, and so instead of coming right out and telling her, like, well, I mean, you stealing somebody else's stuff is not really fun. Like, it's a crime. um, he then has her think about, like, other perspectives. He tells her, like, well, how do other people feel about what you're doing? And she kind of says, like, well, I mean, they get angry sometimes, but then she says, like, it's because they don't see my perspective. Like, they don't see that I'm just having fun. Like, she's still kind of not quite getting it, that what she's doing is wrong, even though it feels fun for her. Um, so then instead of kind of telling her, he asks her, like, well, like, let's consider some other ways to have your needs met. Like, what are some alternative behaviors or alternative activities that you can do? And so then she starts thinking and she talks about, like, oh, joining, like, the video gaming club. And then as they're talking about the video gaming club and the alternate activities, that's when he realizes that, like, she started stealing these things because it felt like there's, like, an element of strategy for her. And be- it became a replacement behavior for an activity that she was doing before, which was like some video game, and then her computer broke. Um, so then instead of telling her, like, you have to do other things instead of stealing other people's things, he tells her, like, no, like, well, it's just how you replaced this activity, this video game you were playing, with this, like, unwanted behavior of stealing things or taking things from other people. Um, let's find another replacement activity. But instead of just telling her, like, he has her brainstorm. And that's when she says, like, oh, I can join the video gaming club, or, you know, like, she starts to start thinking, get the wheels turning and thinking about, like, oh, like, there's other stuff that I can do. Like, I don't necessarily need to take other people's things for fun. And so when I think about, as a school counselor, what do you see as a challenge for you to guide a student rather than tell them what to do? Um, I would say one of the biggest challenges would have to be learning to check my own biases and learning to regulate my own emotions and my own behavior, before jumping to conclusions or before just, like, straight out telling them. I think, like, in the example video, like, Dr. Grandi does a really good job of, like, kind of staying calm and not really reacting or overreacting when she tells them that she's like been taking other people's things. Um, and so I feel like as a school counselor, it is such a fine line, or it's hard, especially with a situation like this where you know that what she's doing is clearly wrong. Um, it's kind of hard to stop and say, my job is not to tell her what to do, but guide her to kind of become aware of her own problems and her own uh, difficulties that she's having. So I think for me that would probably be the biggest challenge, is learning to kind of check myself and making sure that I don't want to jump into telling mode or teaching mode instead of like taking a breath, stopping, listening to what's going on, and then saying like, okay, like, well, how can, what can you do different? Or how can we replace that behavior with another one that's a healthier choice? And then the last question was, considering the school that you currently work at, how open or amenable to this approach are the students and faculty, and why? So I teach at an early childhood school, and I feel like this approach would be difficult, um, working with pre-K and kinder students, just because they're still in that developmental phase of being very egocentric and having a really difficult time thinking about things from other people's perspective, or them just coming up with like having problem solving strategies. I feel like the, the goal of this type of this theory is to kind of help guide, sorry, kind of help guide the client or the student to think of alternative options, like help them become aware of their behavior. And I just don't know if that would be super doable with 4 and 5 year olds. I think this would kind of go back to that previous question where it said, like, what are some challenges to guide a student rather than tell them? I think because a lot of them, this is their first time in school, they, aren't aware of the structure or the rules and procedures. They're still learning how to share, how to function in a school setting. I just personally think that it would be difficult. I think that the faculty would be open to it. Um, but I think that, again, the part of those challenges would be having to check yourself before you want to go, instead of saying like, you know, John and Susie are fighting over blocks, instead of you providing the solution, have them think about how to do it. And I feel like that would be just a little bit harder. Not that it's completely unfeasible. I just think it would make it more difficult. Um, so that's all I have to share for this week. And I'm looking forward to hearing everyone else's responses.